Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Dented Cans. This is your host, Michael Fenoya. I have my friend Matt Wayne with me today. But before we get to him, uh, as always, I want to thank our sponsor, Sunset Lake CBD, Burlington, Vermont's own farm crafted CBD. You could go to sunsetlakecbd.com and use promo code DENTED, DENTED, for 20% off. That's Dented, DENTED, for 20% off high quality CBD from the 802, Burlington, Vermont. Like, share, subscribe if you're having a good time. Thank you for listening and watching. And who do you want on the pod? Let me know. Matthew, my friend Matthew Wayne is here. Did anybody ever call you Matthew Wayne other than your mom?
Not really. No, I'm my mother and perhaps a couple of managers when I worked at restaurants.
Then I won't do it. I won't call you Matthew.
Matthew.
Matthew,
No,
tuck
yeah,
that shirt in.
I like it though. Because I don't get it a lot. I don't mind it. It's like a new thing.
I didn't mean it in it out at all a managerial or condescending kind of I meant it
I
as
would
like
I would have never taken it that way.
a term of endearment. Cheers, my friend.
Cheers, Michael. No, how about you? You don't go by Michael.
I'll
Mike,
take it.
Michael.
I'll take it. Michael, they're only noodles, Michael. I'm little Mike in my family, but I'm bigger than all the Mikes. So it's weird. It's like there's like, you know how like every family's got one name where there's like a million of them?
Yeah.
There's like 1,000 Mikes in my family. And I was like the only child. My parents had me super young, like 18. So I was hanging out with like my dad and my uncles and whatever, all that shit when I was like 4 or 5, and they're in their like late teens, early 20s. So it was like, oh, it's little Mike, but it stuck. And now I'm bigger than all of them, but I still get it. Now it's just become like you'll always be little Mike.
Yeah, but that's also fun. That's like, like not like a fat guy who's like named Tiny. Not that you're fat, but I'm just saying.
Thank you. You're right. It is kind of like the little fat kid in me is still little Mike. So, um, I wanted to chat. I've been dying to chat with you for a while, but I sent you a text on Sunday in solidarity from over here in Finn's Nation saying that this Miami fan is all Bills this postseason. And I was wishing you all my love and support and to the Bills Mafia because I think we have a lot in common, Miami fans and Buffalo fans. And I feel like we've been forced to hate each other. And in this age of vulnerability and breaking down walls, I think it's time to discuss it as a lifelong Dolphin fan and a lifelong Bill fan. Uh, I was pulling for you guys, man. And the way that it all went down on Sunday is brutal and historic and weird. And I just wanted to talk with you about it. And I wanted to see how you're doing and all that stuff. So can we rip the Band-Aid off and kind of talk Bills for a sec? Are you ready?
Yeah, we can. Initially I went on Instagram the next day and like an X, I unfollowed the Buffalo Bills. I unfollowed Josh Allen. I unfollowed James Cook. I even unfollowed the Buffalo Sabres. They caught a stray. I'm like, hockey team's done. I'm just so burnt out on Buffalo sports to the point where I'm convinced that like the Sabres are never going to win a cup. The Bills are never going to win a Super Bowl, and it has nothing to do with curse. I'm not saying the city is cursed. I'm just saying they're losers.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And it was nice to hear from you, and it was nice to hear from a Finns fan. And maybe you can agree with me on this. It's weird growing up, obviously with the Kelly Marino rivalry. I always hated the Dolphins the most, and then obviously I hated the Pats the most. And then
Right.
this year I kind of hated the Jets the most. And now I'm at a point where I don't even mind the divisional teams. I really just hate the Chiefs and the Bengals more than any teams in the league.
Yes, 100%. And I would say that that's true with, well, I've always personally grown up in Connecticut and my family is Red Sox fans and I'm a Yankee fan. Marino and Mattingly have been my idols since the beginning, and that's why I stick with my teams. And you know, being in Connecticut, which is the confused state, we don't have a team. We had the Whalers for a minute and then that went away. There's like a line across the state where this is Red Sox and Bruins and Celtics and Pats, and this is New York, whatever, Jets, Mets, Nets people, which are weirdos. And then there's the, Giants, Yankees, Knicks, Rangers, and that shit. Um, but I always had a hatred for the Patriots. My dad brought me to a game early on. This is when like the gripper starter jackets were like in starter was in New Haven, Connecticut too, which was like pretty wild. Like we would go there and just buy like the wrong team won the NCAA tournament. They would have buckets, like blue buckets of like 50-cent shirts for like
Yeah,
the
there was
Tar
a champ.
Heels won when like, but it was Duke won.
That's awesome. There was a champion outlet in Niagara Falls, and I grew up
Right.
in Buffalo. Same deal. My buddies and I, we would go. You could get like a Phoenix Suns Charles Barkley jersey that does nothing on the back. You know, it'd be just 34, and you'd be like, I'll get a shitty jersey. Why not? So yeah, man, those stores are awesome when you're a kid. You don't care. You don't care.
No, I don't care. My dad had a jacket that said Balzers instead of Blazers, and he didn't know. He wore it for
He didn't
like
know.
he bought it, wore it once, put it in the closet, and then I think I noticed it the next time he put it on, and I'm like, dude, that says Balzers, and it was. Think about that now. Like
It'd be
if
worth
like
money.
it would be
That's like the
viral.
stamp with the upside down plane.
You're right. Yeah. But of course, at the Balzers jersey is probably like covered in mold somewhere now, whatever. But
Man,
anyway, he brought me to a Pats Dolphins game at Foxborough, and
how old were you?
I could tell you how old I was by height. I was hip height to him
Okay.
because I know this because he put my head in the jacket because as we were walking to the car, we were getting pelted with beer cans.
Oh
People were
my God.
rifling beer cans at us, calling us every name under the sun. Um, so I was probably what 7 or 8, maybe 9,
Holy
and they were
smokes.
like, so I always hated the Pats. Obviously, Kelly couldn't stand the Bills. But as I've aged and as we've both kind of man, we have so many similarities, dude. We've like you and I personally we do as fans, but like our teams, dude. How about the fact that like Tua and Hamlin last year both kind of died? Like,
Yeah,
right? Like Tua's given like, I don't know, fucking signals to aliens and shit. Hamlin
that was
just
weird.
drops. And it was like, and then and we've both been kind of like the bastard children of like the AFC, the East with first the Pats, now the fucking Chiefs, dude, like knock us both off. And it's like we don't even have time to enjoy the Patriots being shitty, where we now have another bully. And we
Dude,
shoot
I know.
ourselves in the fucking foot, dude.
I know, and there's so many memes going around now. That's the other thing too. I just wanted to be off social media for a couple of days because I was so sick of seeing like, oh, what do the Bills need to do to get over the hump? Oh, the Bill. You know, I saw a picture today of Tom Brady post game shaking Philip Rivers' hand, and the meme was like, "Gonna tell my kids this is Mahomes shaking Josh Allen's hand," and I'm like, "Ha ha ha!"
Oh,
But they're right. We are the 2000s Chargers, pretty much. But yeah. Oh, and then another one like, wow, Bills fans finally got to see Brady right off in the sunset, and then here comes Mahomes. It's like we had no time to
no
enjoy this
time.
Josh Allen run. It
Josh
sucks.
Allen is so good. I mean, he's
He is.
just so unbelievably fun. And I mean, dude, Diggs is great. And like, your team is fantastic. And so is Miami's.
They
But
are.
it's,
And I'm also, are you psyched that like Tua came back from the dead? I didn't think he'd play ever again. What a
oh
year.
God, I'll be honest with you. Up until the season started, I almost didn't want him to because it's like,
I would be the same way.
and I have such PTSD as it relates to like Miami Dolphin quarterbacks post Marino. I mean, dude, if you want to laugh, like next time you're taking a shit, like roll through like Miami quarterbacks since 1999.
Well, that you could say that's another thing we have in common because the Bills is the same thing. You start going through, you're like Jeff Toole,
Gus Farrat, fucking
oh my God. Yeah.
Sage
Alex Van Pelt,
Rosenfels.
Chad Pennington.
Dude, we both had Fitzpatrick for a minute.
That's right. Love that guy.
Yeah, Fitzy. He looks like the poor man's Conor McGregor.
Yeah. And he just always, the thing with Fitzy, he was the best quarterback when he had nothing to lose.
Yes,
And he would put
totally.
2 or 3 games together. Everyone would go, "Hey, Fitzy's not so bad," and he would be like, "Ooh."
Fitzy's like a good wedding band. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, what a nice surprise. Like, when we're playing like home field advantage, like that's another thing that we've had the like we can enjoy a game just because we're like literally fucking the home field advantage for Pittsburgh or fucking the home field advantage for like, the Pats or something like that. Like AFC East games, it doesn't matter who's in last, who's in first. It's always going to be a dogfight. It's always going to be a shootout. Like how many games I loved watching the Pats just like fold to the Miami defense, and
Yeah,
and
you
it's
had their number for quite a while.
yeah, we did, and you guys had ours, but we had some seriously like the snow game last year, and like it's always very. I feel like look, fuck the Jets, fuck the Pats. I think it's like we have a certain second and third, first and second, like we're kind of like stepbrothers in a strange way, Miami and Buffalo, where we hate each other because our parents like we've been forced to kind of be roommates and we hate each other, but we've also like felt the same pains and like we could be there for each other if we're adult enough to be like, yeah, this sucks, man. This sucks
Yeah.
constantly.
And we both grew up with Hall of Fame quarterbacks that never won a Super Bowl.
No. What the fuck is that all about, dude?
Horrible, horrible. And so many people will tell you that Marino's the best quarterback ever. And I don't argue it. It's probably either Marino or Elway. I mean, obviously people might say Brady now, but
Yeah.
Jim Kelly's name rarely gets brought up because he had more of a surrounding cast. But horrible that those two guys never and Marino went pretty early in his career, like second year in the league, right? Or was
And
that his rookie?
lost. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I think it was second. Yeah. And it might have been the rookie. I don't remember, but it was, yeah, and lost and never. Same with Mattingly. Look at what happened to the Yankees right after he
Oh, dude.
left.
I was just having this conversation with someone about Mattingly. His career lines up right in between when they were amazing. Like you got like the end of that run with Billy, like 77, Reggie,
Yep.
Mr. October. He comes in and then like right up to 96 with like Jeter and everybody. Like he was just in the trenches when they sucked. Oh,
He's my like, and I'll tell you, growing up, I was, and as any like, I love the Mets, the 86 Mets, the 85 Mets, like that group was great. I can name that whole team still, but they broke my heart, dude. They were just like, my mom, 8 months pregnant, brought me to meet Daryl Strawberry to get an autograph, and he yelled at her, and like, kind
what
of
did he say?
under his breath called her a bitch and said, like,
Wow.
so like we waited hours and hours. She was like 3, 4 hours on her feet, waiting in line at like a hotel to get like an autograph. Swear to God, it must have been like community service for him because it was when he was at like his all-time low, probably. And we waited and waited and waited, and my mom had a camera with her, and she goes, "My son loves you." Like I was like, dude, it was like meeting Superman, dude. I had like my jersey on, my my white with the blue pinstripes and the
But your
orange down
glove?
my glove, dude, everything. I wore cleats. I was ready to play. Like, put me in, coach. I was John Fogerty in line, dude, you know?
That's such a thing with baseball. If you're going to a game or even if you're going to meet a baseball player, you're like, well, I better bring the equipment just in case
I
something
had,
happens.
I had an extra pouch of great big league chew for him just in case.
Yeah.
But I waited and waited, and she was like, if he could take a picture with you, it would mean the world to me. And he looks up at his like agent or manager. He's like, this bitch crazy. And he's like, look at the line. And like, she got that like, that like mom brokenhearted for her kid cry where it's like through her teeth, but tears are, she's like, I
Yeah.
waited 4 hours. And he's like, all right, all right. So we have a picture of me with Strawberry, and he's got this gross Nike sweater on. I'll show you one day. And I have
He
my
hadn't
arm
gone
around
to
him
bed
like,
yet.
yeah, no. And yeah, it's so totally like it's not 9 a.m. It's 18 p.m. at this point for him. And I have my arm around him with the glove, and I'm glowing. I'm so happy. And he's just like miserable. And then he
Oh,
signed my picture, like just Don Stanley, like didn't even write like Daryl Strawberry, just scribbled
gee.
these scribbles. And then my mom, that was strike one. And then my mom entered me into the junior Met contest, which was like they had a thing sponsored by Fuji cameras. That was the sponsor at the time. And you took a picture of your kid dressed up in his Mets gear, and I had one like the bat over my knee and the whole thing. And you won if you won junior Met. I think they picked multiple kids, but if you were one of the winners, you got two tickets to the game where they put your picture on the screen and a Fuji camera. And I got a letter that I won.
Oh
So,
my God.
dude, I was blown away. I'm like, and all I wanted to be was a pro baseball player as a kid. Like that was all I wanted. And the tickets came like 3 weeks after the game. Like we got the tickets and we looked at the date and it was like these tickets already happened. Like this was, and
Oh,
then we got a Fuji camera that came in the mail and it was in like 1,000 pieces. It was just shattered. It was like the remnants of
snake
a,
bitten. Wow.
and my uncle like was looking up like Mets like home off like yellow page type whatever. He got a hold of someone and he's like, my kid is so pissed. And they were like, nobody cared. Like nothing happened, you know? So that
Yeah.
summer, my other uncle worked as an accountant for like the McDonald's and he had good Yankee seats. So he brought me to Yankee Stadium and sure enough, Mattingly's just out there giving head rubs, doing like signatures
Yeah.
to, you know, like the
He knows the
nicest.
deal.
He knows
Yeah.
the deal, man. And it was just like I felt immediately like, this is where I need to be. Like and from that moment on, that was like one of the greatest days of my life. And that was the Yankees from that point on. Like he was just my hero. And anytime we played football in the yard, I was always quarterback and I was always Marino. And I just those two guys, and they never won. And it's weird. I have that weird thing. I've never saw Jerry Garcia live, and the Grateful Dead's my favorite thing in the world. It's this thing with my heroes where like they're not champions. They die of heroin at 50. Like I don't care.
Or you meet them and they call your mom a bitch.
Or they thank God I didn't meet Jerry Garcia. I'd be a Limp Bizkit fan now.
Oh no. Just be
did
breaking shit.
did you used to go to like growing up in Buffalo? I feel like teams were fairly accessible, right? Like were they at like the mall? Can you go meet the players kind of
Well,
thing?
yeah, I remember going to a bank, kind of a similar deal that you had with Strawberry. I went to a bank to go meet Jim Kelly,
Wow.
and it was like he wasn't even signing anything though. You just got a glossy that had like the signature already done. Like he wasn't actually physically signing any of them. He just
Wow.
shook your hand and handed you a glossy, and you went on your way. So
Was
maybe
it
it was another situation where he probably didn't really want to be there. You know what I mean?
I'm sure they don't, right? I'm sure like think about it now as adults, like you talk to your whatever manager, like, what do I have to do in the morning? Oh, Jesus, really? Like Buffalo savings? I have to go. All
Yeah.
right. You can't say no. But remember waking up that morning, how excited you were?
Yeah, of course. I was like, I'm gonna meet Jim Kelly. This is crazy.
Wow.
But there's also like Sabres. There's the hockey players are just they're a little more accessible. I mean, I guess they all are because it's Buffalo. They're just everywhere. And I remember just being with my grandfather at a grocery store. He'd be like, you know who that is over there? And he like walked me over to him. He goes, sir, this is my grandson. I go, I don't know who you are. He goes, that's Mike Foligno. I don't even no one knows who Mike Foligno is, but yeah, that's about the limited experience I had with meeting athletes in Buffalo.
Really?
Foligno and Kelly. One time, I mean, I wasn't there, but do you remember Eric Molds?
Yeah. Yeah.
Eric Molds, awesome wide receiver, easily would have been a Hall of Famer on any other team, but he was wasted his prime on the Bills back in the Bledsoe days, and he was lining up with Peerless Price. But he was at a Marriott bar, and my older sister Jennifer was drunk and just like walked over to him. He's like, "You're Eric Molds," and like basically got to the point where like, "Do you even like playing in Buffalo?" And he just went, "Nah." He just gave her a nah. Didn't even think about it. Just nah. So
That's
yeah,
crazy. Did I freeze up on your end with my thumb up?
you are frozen. It was kind of fun.
Wait, I don't want to unfreeze.
There, you're
That's
back.
weird.
You're
Okay,
back.
good, good, good. It was interesting growing up in Connecticut. WWF started in, so we
Stanford,
had that.
yeah.
Yeah. So like there was a video store, Tommy K's Video in Hamden, Connecticut, right near the town next to where I grew up. And there were all these apartment buildings like up above this plaza. And that's where a lot of the wrestlers lived. So like multiple times we'd be like, there was an ice cream place right next door. So it was kind of like a thing where you go get pizza, then you go rent a movie, get ice cream, go home. And we would go into the movie store and like Captain Lou would be like walking around
Oh
like
my gosh.
normal. Like just in his
Does he ever
jeans.
look normal? Does he have like a rubber band in his beard?
No rubber bands, no rubber band. I remember like, yeah, I think my uncle may have made like a dumb joke about that, and he kind of was like, I heard that one, you know. But I remember seeing wrestlers kind of like regularly. It was weird, like because you'd look and be like, is that them? And they just have like painted on jeans and like sleeveless t-shirts and like
Zubaz.
Zubaz and like Gold's Gym, like where they cut the t-shirt so it's like
Yeah, that's like
barely
every
hanging on.
80s photo I see of an 80s of a wrestler is just like Zubaz, Gold's Gym all the time, or like a starter jacket.
Yeah, totally, totally. Did you like go to a lot of wrestling as a kid? Was wrestling a huge thing for you?
I mean, I loved wrestling. I really did. I went to one wrestling show in Buffalo as a boy at the Niagara Falls Convention Center in 1994. It was the Heart Attack tour. It was like Bret Hart. So 94, I think, is when WWF was like Hogan was gone, and it was like those were like the Bret Hart, Yokozuna, Undertaker years.
Yeah, yeah.
And my dad's friend was like a liquor rep, so got these like front, like the barrier was there, and then we were there. I mean, it wasn't televised, so we weren't on TV, but like
Still.
when Undertaker went like this and the four posts, the fire came out, like you could feel it. It was like, geez.
Wow.
And to watch like Shawn Michaels work over like a front row crowd, he kept like calling this old lady ugly. It was amazing.
That's so cool. Oh, that's awesome. Because I
Yeah.
feel like we have a lot of like I feel like Buffalo. I, I kind of have a soft spot in my heart for like for New Haven. Like, I grew up right outside of there, but like cities like that, where it's like Buffalo's way bigger than New Haven, but I still feel like it has that small city
Oh,
feeling
definitely.
where it's like you still can go there for a weekend and kind of like feel like you get to know Buffalo a little bit. I've always loved Buffalo. I think it's a lot of like I tend to always go when it's dreary and slushy, but I'm used to that too. So it kind of feels like home a little bit.
Yeah, it's an awesome place. And I moved 14 years ago and it's only just gotten more awesome. So I can never go back. I can never live there again because it'll get shitty. But they've like developed it so much more now. You like when I growing up there, like downtown was cool. And it's weird to think like, oh, going into the city of Buffalo, but now they've actually like developed the waterfront. There's like all kinds of bars, restaurants. It's weird how it took them so long to be like, what if we put like bars and restaurants and like ice skating down by the lake? Do you think people would come to that? And then like that's all people want to
It's
do.
all
Pull up.
people want to do.
They just want to get drunk and ice skate.
That's
Yeah.
it.
So it's cool to see. I'm glad Buffalo is getting its due. And but wait a minute, how did you become a Dolphins fan? Just because you liked Marino?
Well, my old man,
Okay.
and I think but weirdly, and it's kind of like, one day recently, not even recently, probably 5, 6 years ago or whatever, I saw him and he had a Chiefs hat on, and I'm like, what the fuck is this shit? But I stick with my team. Like I'm Miami, and it's too late. It's too. I lived in Denver for a little bit, and I like it was the first time I was like regionally like connected. I never felt a connection to the Giants. I never felt a connection to the Jets. The only New York team I ever really felt a connection with was the Mets and the Yankees because baseball is probably, I'd say, like my number
Well,
one sport.
that's also just a great story of your transition from Mets to Yankees. Like Strawberry was a jerk and Mattingly was just, you
And
know,
Strawberry won,
kissing babies.
right. And Strawberry won how many titles? Shit, did he win one with the Yankees too? I think he did.
I
And
think
he
he might
won one
have.
with the Mets. So it's like, yeah, all my guys are losers. That's okay though. Like I have to be okay with that. I have to make peace with that. But
Can I, can I ask you another question about the
please,
Dolphins?
100%. Yeah.
Because this is a huge bone of contention with me. Every time I watch the Dolphins, it's literally all I can think about. How pissed are you at that shitty dolphin that's on your hat right now
I hate it.
that doesn't have a helmet and that you don't have the Argyle end zone anymore? You guys had such an amazing uniform with the Argyle and the tri-stripe going down and then like the little football helmet on the Dolphin's head. Like this is just Echo the Dolphin from Sega Genesis.
It really is, dude. And it's the only reason why I have this hat is because it's the only I am extremely I have a very odd shaped head, and it's like the only hat that semi looks normal. I can't do those flat brim. It's not it's there's certain
Dude,
things.
it took me a second to get to even wear a flat brim hat. I remember I bought one and I was walking around the apartment And I was like, I can't go outside like this. And my wife was like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I look ridiculous.
You look like
And
you're
she goes,
trying too hard, right?
yeah. And she goes, that's what hats look like now. And I was like, I just can't, it's too much of a statement.
It
Like your hat,
is.
that's like the curved brim, you can just get by people. This thing is just like, look at this guy.
Yeah, yeah. What are you into? Yeah, it's odd. I have a couple flat brim hats, and dude, I just can't. I have massive ears, so I look like a Make-A-Wish kid when I wear a flat brim hat. And and also like I just don't I can't there's just something growing up it was like the more bent the brim, the fucking
Dude,
cooler you
totally.
were, dude.
I'd get a new hat from Pro Image. That was the place in the Boulevard Mall. Not that you know about the Boulevard Mall, but
I do.
in Buffalo. And then you'd get home and you'd put your hat into like a drinking glass while you went to bed. So when you
Yeah.
came out, the thing was perfectly,
Dude, hot water and fabric softener in a cup.
yeah.
And I would take speaking of Captain Lou elastic bands, I would take we had game hats, the ones that had the circle. They were white hats that had like, it would say like Cox, South
Yes.
Carolina, whatever,
Yes.
and you would take the hat and you'd bend it into itself and then you'd ball the hat up and you'd put a big elastic band around it and put it in a hot cup of fabric softener essentially and leave it in there like overnight. And the more loose and limp and fucking beat up your hat was, the more badass. But you had to like, there was a science to it. You had to like put it on and like mold it to your head
Yeah.
so it would fit right, And then like, yeah, dude, it was such a art. And then we had the 3 bar game hats too, but I remember those Pro Image hats that you guys like. That was a weird regional thing. Like, did you have game hats? Did you guys do game hats or was it mainly Pro Image?
No, I mean, I know the hats you're talking about. Those existed too. The ones that just said like the name of the
Yeah, like Huskies or Hokies or
yeah.
Vols. Yeah.
Yeah, and then but there was also a kid in my neighborhood who was insisting at one point. He'd be like, "Let me see your hat for a second." You take off your hat, and then underneath the brim, he would count the numbers of stitch. Like under the brim you have, and he'd be like,
Yeah.
"If you have less than 8, it's a shitty hat." And I'd be like, "What are you talking about?"
That's a
And I
fucking
would like go to these. I would go to the mall and look at all the hats and count the line because I just want to appease this kid who's a bully who I don't give a shit about. Yeah,
Isn't that so weird that like the fucking I remember it's so interesting you say that because I remember seeing a kid took his hat off and he had the net. So I don't know if you remember this, but there was like a net that was it was glued to the inside of this part of the hat. And it's kind of what gave it its prop a little bit.
yeah.
And you could cut out that net and that would make this part looser. And that was like step one of breaking in a new hat
Ah,
was
wow.
you like
Remove the insert.
remove the inside and cut the net out. But the problem was these seams were still propping. So it was a
Ah,
weird, like you kind of, again, it was like this emergency surgery. It was like an appendectomy for hats. Like you had to like clear, like you had to get like the dishwasher needed to be available in case I needed to do like, extra work on the hat. But God, nothing felt better than going to school that day with like a freshly beat up bleached
yeah.
hat, like a nice loose, and it fit good. I remember
Yeah.
nothing was better. And my high school was the Indians, so I like the Cleveland Indian hat was always like the only other baseball team hat I'd wear, and I always pulled the front tooth of the guy out. But
Chief Wahoo.
Chief Wahoo, I didn't know if we could mention him by name anymore, but
Oh, come
I
on.
love Chief Wahoo. How
I love
great,
Chief Wahoo. I also just like, to me, the movie Major League is like one of the best movies ever. So,
easily.
and like a movie that would never get made today, not just because of it's an R-rated sports film, but like the fact that they got licensing for all of the teams that were in it and like just incredible.
Just incredible. I wonder how much of that was just like Charlie Sheen's name, and they're like, "Yeah, of course we'll do this." At that point.
Yeah.
That movie was the best. Like, out of sports movies, what would you say are like you're a big hockey guy, yeah? Did you play
Yeah.
hockey growing up?
I did not play hockey because I mean, when you're a kid, you don't know this, but it's like the most expensive sport.
And the
I
times that
remember,
you had to go practice at 4 a.m., 3 hours
yeah,
from your house. Yeah,
I had friends that played hockey, and I remember them telling me, I'd go over to their house and just that big fucking duffel bag that they would have. They'd be like, "This bag alone is $400," and I'm like,
yeah,
"What?"
yeah.
So my parents are like, "Hey, baseball, you just need a mitt, and
Stirrups.
yeah, they'll have the bats. We'll get you some shitty cleats at Payless." Yeah, so I never was able to play hockey. I actually like never ice skated until like I think the first time I ice skated was actually in New York City. Like I never like it just Buffalo just never it never happened for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm with you.
But I loved hockey. I loved hockey. I would love to have played it.
My uncle Mike went to University of Maine and played goalie, which is a great school. And then my uncle Bill played semi-pro for the Canadians, but I never learned to skate. I fell once skating and I was like, that's it. I don't want to. But yeah, I had buddies too that would like I'd sleep over their house and they'd be like, we got to get up at like 3:30 in the morning and drive like an hour
Yeah.
to get like ice time or whatever. And I'm like, nah, I don't think my mom would want to.
Exactly. I was like, man, my parents are gonna do that shit.
No way. But yeah, baseball was always, but I forget where I was going. Oh, sports movies. Easily the best sports movie, in my opinion, is Slapshot. I mean, I would say that that might be. Do you like that movie? Do you love that
I
movie? Is
like Slapshot, but I'm still not putting it ahead of Major League.
Major League is your number one?
If we're, well, I guess are we talking comedies or are we just talking sports movie in general?
Oh, well, if we're talking sports movies in general, that opens it up to let's go
Yeah,
five.
that's
Let's go top five of all sports movies.
well, okay, then I would say Slapshot, Major League, League of Their Own. Is that okay as a man to
A
say that?
hundred. Oh my God, yeah. I don't agree, but it's totally okay to
Well,
say
I'm
it because
throwing it out there. We can shave it off. I'm
okay,
stockpiling now.
yeah, let's stockpile.
I love Rudy.
I was gonna say Rudy's my A League of Their Own, but yeah, I would
Mm,
have to. I would have to say, and this is I've been in this argument before. I like Waterboy more than I like Happy Gilmore. I'm sorry. I like Waterboy. I know a
Uh,
lot of people don't, but I
you know what's
love
funny?
Waterboy.
I would never. It wouldn't even occur to me to consider either of those films sports movies. I would just consider those Adam Sandler movies. I
Adam
wouldn't even consider
Sandler
them.
being Adam Sandler, just in a
But they
different.
are sports comedies, and I would have never in a million years put that together, even though they're obviously sports comedies. That's hilarious. Yeah, I'm trying to think of
What
other
else is there? I Feel the Dreams, I think, is an amazing movie. I really like
Bull Durham,
Bull
Field of
Durham.
Dreams is good, but Field of Dreams is good. Bull Durham. Why am I so bad at thinking of sports movies all
Well,
of a
it's
sudden?
interesting because a lot of them are baseball movies.
Yeah, now that you're thinking about it, and all most of them we named are baseball movies. Yeah,
And then football, you got what's it called? The Longest Yard. You've
I
got
never saw
like
the original with Burt Reynolds, and I never saw the remake either.
no, I saw the Burt Reynolds one. I never saw the remake one. I liked it. Again, it was one of those things where it's like saw it too young and it kind of was way
Yeah.
over my head. I don't know if I consider Caddyshack a sports movie. It's at a golf course, but is that a
See, that's
sports
another one. I
movie?
love Caddyshack, but I would never think of it as a sports movie. You're right.
Do you think a Slapshot is a sports movie?
Slapshot is definitely a sports movie because I feel like I guess it the conflict comes from the minor league hockey franchise of whatever city they're in. I forget, but yeah, like
Springfield.
spring. Yeah, that's right. Let's see what sports movies. Bad News Bears, another baseball
Bad
one.
News Bears is fantastic. I would say
So
that
good.
the original is
The original,
Buttermaker. Holy
yeah.
shit, what a great movie.
Math House, so funny.
And also that's a movie that like, you know, that's a really kind of ahead of its time movie where like your ace pitcher is a girl and she's
Yeah.
just like, you know, like the whole thing was very kind of it's okay to be the loser, like the second place, just like Rocky. I mean, I'd say Rocky, and I mean that's got to be considered sports movie, right? I mean,
That's true. That's the whole
a
franchise.
whole franchise. But I mean, yeah, it's Mighty Ducks. There's a hockey one.
Yeah. I feel like I missed out on Mighty Ducks because I mean, how old are you?
93.
Okay, I'm 42.
I'm 44.
So I feel like, yeah. So I feel like when Mighty Ducks came out, you
We
and
were
I,
older.
we were
We
too.
were smoking cigarettes and feeling boobs.
Yeah, I feel like it was like a thing that I just missed, where I was like, oh, I like Emilio Estevez, but what's going on here? You know, like
Yeah, 1-2 triple deke. I heard a couple times and didn't really care.
Flying V. You
Flying
know,
V.
I just didn't give a shit. Like to me, Sandlot. If we're gonna go like kids sports movies, Sandlot beats Mighty Ducks 10 out of 10 times.
Yeah, because that was right on our way out, right?
Yeah,
Like that was where it was kind of like, is that how you stopped caring about wrestling when like the first time you like, how was Buffalo an early drinking? Did you guys start drinking so you graduated high school, what, 98, 99?
99, 99.
Okay, I graduated 97. So like I grew up Dazed and Confused was kind of like our model of like how to be in high school. You know what I mean? Just like drink in the woods,
Oh, of
chase the
course.
muff around the pool, you know, all that
Yes,
crap.
there was a lot of that in Buffalo. Kids getting high before school. I mean, I was like a straight edge punk kid in high school, so I wasn't drinking. I was blown away that people were able to like smoke weed, go into school, and like then get A. People would get A's. They would be high and they would get A's, and I'm like, I'm not high and I'm failing. What is the problem here? I'm not even drinking. I'm ever and I'm failing.
Well, you have minor. Oh, God damn it with this fucking thumbs up thing. What the hell is going on there?
What is that?
I don't know. Do you see it?
I see it, and now you're frozen.
I don't get it. Like every time this, like, there we go. I don't know. You update your software and everything goes fucking goo goo gaga. Um, so no, not
There it is
again.
again.
Cocksuckers. All
It's
right.
like the Michelin Man's coming after you.
Really? I mean, at least it's like a good, at least it's like a thumbs up and not a
Yeah.
so you had like Ian Mackay and Circle Jerks and all that in your locker when other kids had like Jerry
Yeah.
Garcia
Yeah. I
and
was going to like shitty, dumb basement hardcore shows and, going to Denny's till 4 a.m. with my friends. That's the other good. Like my parents, but I had no curfew, but like, cause they knew I wasn't doing anything.
see that's
I'm
great.
just going to go to Denny's and come home. Like I did never gotten in any trouble.
That's I don't know. That was not the so you're the youngest
Yeah. Yeah.
of
I have
how
two older
many?
sisters.
Two older sisters. Yeah. So you okay. I'm the oldest of four, and there's an 8 year gap between me and the closest one.
Oh, that's perfect. So you paved the way for everybody.
Perfect for them, yeah. But I was like the guinea pig. Like I just if they didn't know what else to do with me, they just said grounded. And then I had to sneak out and whatever else. But like, yeah, I was partying like 11, 12. Like that was like early, I remember my 21st birthday. I was like, I need a break from drinking. Like it's been like it was weird. Everyone's like, you want to get a keg? I'm like, you guys could, but I'm gonna just, I need to take it easy for a year. We started young, real young. Cigarettes at like 10, 11.
Yeah, I definitely had some cigarettes going at like 14, 15, and especially when I was like 15 working as a dishwasher,
So you got
people
a job at 15. That, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, 15 in Buffalo, you could get a job dishwashing. Most places were breaking labor laws. You could go into any restaurant and get a job. It was great.
And they give you like 20 bucks at the end of the day, and that was it. Yeah. You didn't have to do
Yeah,
like
I mean,
paperwork.
it was, dude, it was when I was a dishwasher, minimum wage was 4.75 an hour. 4.75. And
Isn't that insane?
it's insane. I would be working like 6 p.m. to like 1 a.m. on like a Tuesday night. And like my parents didn't care. They weren't like mad that they were breaking the labor laws. They were happy I had a job. And
Dude,
I was happy I had a job.
of course, you socked that money away to go to circle jerk shows.
Yeah, man.
Um,
Absolutely.
my first job was at Angelo's Pizza, cutting uh cutting pies and folding boxes and stuff. And I definitely didn't get paid minimum wage. I think he just kind of like did one of those like and like
Yeah. Just
folded off a couple or whatever. And then
cracked you a couple. Yeah.
yeah, just threw me a couple and was like, take a pizza on the way out and say hi to your mom.
So you're only that's say hi to your mom for me. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So your only job was just to like, you're the guy just slicing pies and just
Yeah.
get that's awesome.
New Haven pizza gets like the props that it deserves. It's dynamite pizza, but on the suburbs of New Haven, which is where I grew up, each town had two or three kind of like knockoff, Pepe's or whatever. Like everybody heard of Pepe's and Sally's, but
Frank Pepe's, yeah.
yeah, so we had like Angelo's and Vicks and all these other kind of like, it was super Italian. I grew up in like a fucking Springsteen video basically. And and the thing that was cool was like Angelo's was right in the heart of downtown. It was great pizza, not downtown, the heart of my little tiny town. But the softball field was like in the backyard of the pizza place, and it was always busy. So like
That is a Springsteen video. Jesus.
it really was literally, dude. And like red and white checkered floor with a jukebox and a giant fan. I'm scared to move my hands because I don't want to set that thumbs up fucking alarm off again. But anyway, like I just can still see the place. Like there was like
I
a
can
air,
smell the place you're talking about.
oh
It's
dude,
awesome.
it was so good. The air conditioner that like it was propped up above the front door and there was one drip of water that like just there was a constant puddle when you walked in. It's like what the fuck. But I remember the jukebox. I would always put on Jump. Van Halen was like the first song that like
Yeah.
It was like a quarter, got you like 5, 6 songs. But everybody went to that pizza joint, and I was in the back, and my job was to like pre-fold boxes for the rush. Like so on a
Yeah.
Friday, I'd have to get there early and like fold like hundreds of boxes and just get them all ready, the smalls, the mediums, the larges, and all, and line them up so he could grab them and whatever. And then I was there ready with a pizza slicer. Now I'm left-handed, and I feel like I maybe have a tad of undiagnosed, maybe some dyslexia of some sort. So I wasn't good at things. Like I did everything kind of reverse and backwards. So like I don't know where a normal person would like cut a pie and kind of go like whip, 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 whip. Like I had to kind of like start backwards and pull towards me and spin
Okay.
so the guy got annoyed with me all the time and shit. But like, and then I was like, they would make these giant trays of lasagna. And you ever eat at like an Italian restaurant where you get like lasagna, but it's in like a boat? Like they
Oh
like
yeah.
those ceramic boats that like are 5,000 degrees when you
Because they
touch
yeah
them.
they stick them in, they cover them in mozz and parm, and they like bring them in there. So you just have like, because when I was a dishwasher, the French onion crocks would come in
Yes,
like,
exactly. Yeah, the
and you'd have to
Crocs, that's the
you'd
word.
you'd have to fucking soak them in a bus bin and then like do them at the end of the night because they were so nuclear, just caked on. You'd
They
be like,
really
oh
were
god,
nuclear. Like the
horrible.
whole bottom layer of like the pasta would just like congeal to it, and it was like a fucking hard skin.
Like,
Yeah, so I had to cut those, and it burned my hand a million times on those things and whatever. But then, yeah, and then we would get like these bricks of shredded cheese, and I would have to break them all up. So I did a lot of like the prep work. But it was cool because who's coming in like the back door getting pizza for like the fire department, or who's, like, the VIPs at Angelo's Pizza, kind of, like big guy in
yeah, you
town.
get to see all the business.
I got to see a lot of shit went down. I felt like little Cologito in Bronx Tale, like I was hanging out at the club. But it was a fun gig, and I did that as long as I possibly could. But then I went to a music store. When I started to play guitar, I started to like I got a gig at the music store in town, like tuning guitars and stringing guitars and stuff like that. And that was cool, but it wasn't as fun. It wasn't as like lively and active. It was super quiet. But I had a million jobs. I felt like, was it cool being the youngest? Like, I feel like you got a lot of like, I mean, it was sisters, but like hand me down stuff. Like, did they teach you about music and all that? That was all left up to me for my siblings.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing too is, I guess, we're so close in age. Like I'm 42, my sister is 44, my other sister's 45. So it's like,
Oh,
and
okay.
we turn 43 in the summer. We're 43, 44, 45. So we're like so back, like some people call it Irish triplets. I mean, we're not even that Irish. But when I think about it, though, I do think about like why my mother resents us so much. I'm like, she had to be pregnant for like 3.5 years. Like she went about it the wrong way.
Yeah.
Uh, but
Well,
yeah, but definitely like definitely like they had CDs that they would get, like I remember my sister Carrie having like a Led Zeppelin box set that I would constantly go in her room and steal. You know,
yeah,
like
yeah.
she'd have to come back and be like, "Give me back my Zeppelin box set."
It was so funny. My folks, so they had me when they were 18, split when I was 2 months old. Then my dad came back, remarried my mom, and then they had three more kids. So like when we moved back in, I guess together or whatever, we had we got this little like farmhouse, and I was upstairs, and my dad put his old high school stack stereo, big
Nice.
speakers, like the big
Oh,
cans with like the plug in, the vinyl, and crates and crates and crates of records, Matt.
I'm so
Like,
jealous of that. That's
dude,
awesome.
it was like it was literally like he handed me like, and I was kind of obviously uncomfortable and like I didn't know how to like, who is this dude, kind of. But I just like dove headfirst into the records, and it was like he made two stacks. He had like the ones I was allowed to listen to and the ones I was not allowed to listen to. And it was like in the ones I was allowed to listen to, so weird. Zeppelin, Tull, Bowie, Kiss, like Bad Company, Steely Dan, you name it,
Wow.
right? All that was
You're allowed
okay
to listen to Steely Dan?
as a little kid, right? ZZ
Wow.
Top, all that shit, right?
ZZ Top as well?
Was that what I was?
Pearl Necklace?
Pearl necklace. Yeah, right. Exactly.
They were
She
so
wants a pearl.
horny.
They were so horny. Yeah, literally, they were just three giant
Legs,
erections with
touch.
beards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pearl necklace.
They were like Kiss because every song was about cocks, but they were just better at hiding it. They were like Texas. Every Kiss song was like Love Gun, Gun of Love, like
Yeah. Lick it up.
Lick It Up, Suck It Off, fucking, yeah, all of it. So,
Suck it. Fuck it.
but the ones I couldn't listen to, okay,
That's what I really want to hear. Yeah.
Black Sabbath,
Sure.
Frank Zappa,
Ooh.
and the Grateful Dead. Those were like the three like no-nos.
That's hilarious because Grateful Dead, you could argue, is like the most friendly out of all of that.
I
Like
think it was
Steely
like
Dan would be more problematic, seeing how most of the lyrics are about like fucking teenagers than the Grateful Dead.
seriously, I think it was driving that train high on cocaine, stuck in his head. I think he thought of
Casey
them
Jones,
as kind of
yeah.
like Cheech and Chongy type, like weed. I don't know. They were just like, he goes, I don't want you listening to these. And of course, those were the first three that I
Yeah.
went to. Oh, The Who also. The Who was his favorite band. So, like, I remembered Quadrophenia and Tommy. I like memorized those. And there's a lot of fucking like weird,
Oh, yeah.
like Dr. Jimmy and Mr. Jim's a song about just like a dude that basically like rapes chicks at night. And then in the mornings, like, I don't remember that. And I'm like singing the lyrics to it. But Zappa, I remember as a kid when he would go to bed, I'd go up and listen to like Black Sabbath scared the shit out of me. The album covers alone were like, ugh,
Sure.
like you
Yeah.
open it up and it's like a lady in a casket holding a cross, and I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, that's
And then
scary.
and then Zappa, I loved immediately, but I felt like I was like getting like touched. Like it was like he was like a that voice and that kind of like it felt like a creepy uncle like breathing into your ear. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I'm not ready for this either. Grateful Dead, immediately fell in love with. Like that, like you're saying. It was just like it felt like children's book like stories that I was being told.
Yeah, it's
Like
very warm.
it was like, oh, I've heard this before somehow. And that's how I became such a massive Dead fan, like immediately. And I remember having to kind of like go downstairs and be like, yo, just want to this band, like, this is my favorite. So more of this, please. And then he kind of got like out of, he just got older or whatever and didn't give a shit. And the records, I went to college, I came back to get the records, and dude, they were in the garage melted. It was like a pot, like, I was so heartbroken. Like he just
Oh,
literally like didn't care, cleared the room out, and they just all went to shit. And I tried to save them. I brought them to
no.
like a record store. They were warped. They were like just a total mess, just not taken care of at all. Water
Damn.
damage. Oh, I was so heartbroken. Dude, it was like, and even just like the smell of the sleeves and like the
Sure.
Led Zeppelin 3. I don't know if you ever played with that on vinyl, but like, do you remember the cover of Led Zeppelin 3? It kind of was like it's white and it had black cursive outline writing of Led Zeppelin and then the
Yes.
Roman numeral 3.
Yes.
And it had all this like stuff.
It was like
Uh,
kind of sparkly.
Sparkly,
Wasn't
yes.
Yeah.
So the actual vinyl inside of the main cover had a wheel that you could spin and all the sparkly things would change. So like it was such
Oh
a fun
man.
thing to play with.
That's
Led
I missed shit like that with vinyl, dude. Like I got Alice Cooper on vinyl, School's Out, and like it's like a desk.
Yeah,
Like the front of
dude.
it opens like a desk.
That's
Uh
all gone now. No
that's all gone.
kids
The,
just
the the Stones album with the zipper on it,
sticky fingers. Yep, we
Sticky
had that
Fingers.
too.
Yeah, I
Yep.
mean, like they really like had all these cool things they did with that, or like the jacket. It would be like a Mad Magazine. Like it would be like a map or something. Or like it's just
Such
you
fun
miss
shit.
all that personal, interactive stuff with music now. I mean, it was like you would
Kids are
see it
never
as like
gonna
an artifact.
right, never gonna experience that ever again. Physical Graffiti. Did you know about like the Zeppelin album cover Physical Graffiti? It was a double album. Um, that is a picture of a building on St. Mark's in the East Village. It's 8th and First or something like that, or 8th and A. But it was all the windows. It's like an apartment. You must have seen it. It's all of like
Yeah.
you could pull the sleeve out and turn it and put it back in, and new people would be in the windows.
Whoa.
So it was like this really cool, like I would just sit and play with those things, man. And it was like, oh God, it was like what a gift. And that was immediately when I like fell like just madly in love with music. But I had a buddy, you were into punk and stuff, and I wanted to talk about this quick. I skateboarded, and there was a skateboard park here in Connecticut called the Playground, and we would go see like I think we saw the Circle Jerks. I think we saw fuck, what are some of the other like when ska and punk kind of became like Spring Heel
Operation Ivy.
Operation Ivy, Spring Heel Jack,
Oh yeah.
some of those like I forget the name. I'm forgetting. Gale's Panic, I think, was the name of another one. But
Okay.
anyway, they would all come to the skate park, and my buddy was into like industrial, like quicksand and
Oh
like
yeah.
Helmet and
Hell
loved
yeah,
Helmet.
dude.
Helmet was,
Dude, In the Meantime by Helmet is such a good album.
I mean, quite
And it
possibly
sounds like Ozzy at points.
he really does. It sounds like a Sabbath like B-side. Yeah, his voice, but then you look at them and they're just in like
They're just
you
dudes.
khaki shorts and fucking like hypercolor t-shirts just shredding. I always wondered what happened to them. But
They
like,
I yeah, because another band I liked it kind of sounded like it was Hum. You remember
yeah, dude.
Hum? Like it's
Yeah.
just that Hum is like happier Helmet, but yeah, and same deal as Helmet. You saw them, they wouldn't look like a band. They're just normal guys in
Just
like
shredding.
yeah, just shredding it.
That's
Power
what I
trip.
kind of liked about Fish and the Dead and stuff is they just were dorks up there. Jerry was in like a Hanes beefy tee and sweatpants with like cigarette burns in him and shit, like in like
Yeah, there's
Velcro.
no sex appeal about Jerry, that's for sure.
None whatsoever. Absolutely. What was the first concert that you went to?
First concert I went to was The Descendants.
Oh wow. So someone you liked.
Yeah, I mean, I was a late bloomer when it comes to like other people like have all these cool stories of going to shows with their parents. Like I didn't see a concert until I was 16, and it was Descendants, Suicide Machines. I was like in a punk club, and it was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. You guys had a lot of cool clubs though, huh? I'm trying to think of the names of some of the like the rooms that you guys have. There's one right behind Helium that
Yeah. Okay.
that I love. I went there after my shows one time at Helium. I can't remember the name of the room though.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, and they always change names and change management as well. But
Yeah.
there was the Sphere, which is now called Town Ballroom, I think. That was cool. Showplace Theater was a big one on the west side of Buffalo. And it's still there. That's where I saw like Snapcase and a lot of the punk shows. Mohawk Place was another good punk bar.
That's cool. I think I heard of
Um,
that.
yeah, yeah, man. And they also had some shit in the suburbs too. It's crazy. There was music everywhere in Buffalo.
Yeah, it seems like upstate New York was always like such a kind of like not I don't want to say under the radar, but it was like a hotbed for like such great live music. Because people like I don't know, I feel like when you guys like and even us, New England, the Northeast, shit weather, fucking, like you come out and it's like you're fucking excited and you want a great show. Like you're
And you
not
don't want to
gonna
be in your house anymore.
right, right. So there's all that angst. And then if the band delivers, you match their energy. I've heard
Yeah.
a lot of West Coast bands say that like that came from San Francisco or came from LA or came from they're like, it's too easy there. Like it's just another thing to do. But like you come to New York and play Fillmore East or whatever in the 60s, 70s, it's like, let's go. Fucking what do you got?
Yeah.
And that shit's cool that like I wish I could remember the name of the place that's literally you walk out the back door of Helium Comedy Club and there's a wall and that's the
Yeah, I know exactly what you're
I
talking
wish
about.
I could remember it. It was such a cool room. A big room too, like a nice like concert hall. Um, but that's so cool, man. And you started stand up in Buffalo?
Yeah, when I started in Buffalo, it was August of 2001 was my first open mic that I went to at a place in Lockport, New York, which was like a suburb uh just way north of downtown, but at a place called Laughter's. Laughter apostrophe S. Laughter's Comedy Club. At this point, it was the only comedy. There was two comedy clubs, I think, maybe that and Comics Cafe, another like C room in like a fucking warehouse in the suburbs. And there was just no comedy going on there, though. Like I wouldn't call myself a comedian. I would say I'm going to open mics because I was doing comedy so infrequently,
Right.
like once a month, maybe sometimes once every other month. If you're not, you know what I mean? It was tough.
Right, right, totally. No helium at this point?
No helium. There was when I was in high school, there was a Funny Bone in the Boulevard Mall, and I had gone there just to see shows. I saw Robert Schimmel there
Oh,
my
wow.
senior year of high school, which was awesome.
Oh, that's so cool.
But yeah, that closed, and there was only this club Laughters. I like went to open mics there from August 2001 right up to November. Like a month after 9/11 happened,
9/11. Yeah.
and then they closed. They went out of business, and I was like,
Ah,
well, the one club that was using me as a host closed. Not that I had any business getting paid to do comedy. I'd been doing it for 4 months. Do you know what I mean?
but still, you had the bug.
Yeah. So I had and then like at that point, there was just one other club, and they didn't have an open mic. They didn't have a new talent night, so you just had to kind of like show up and watch, and
Yeah.
like yeah, different time, and with no social media or nothing. It was crazy.
So when did you decide to make the move? You said 14 years ago, but like at that point, were you like,
So in 2006, after like doing comedy, as much as I could do it for 5 years in Buffalo, I moved to Chicago because
oh,
I had a buddy. Do you know Chris Burns? He used to do comedy.
sounds familiar. Yeah, I think I
Now
met
he's
him
a
once or
he's a
twice.
manager now, but yeah, he's a good friend of mine. I've known him since fifth grade. He was living in Chicago, needed a roommate. I just had hit a point where I was like living at home at 25 years old. I'm a waiter at a
Yeah.
fine dining restaurant.
Some time to do something. Yeah.
Well, yeah, like my parents are looking at me like, what are you doing? And it's like I was doing nothing. I was going out, getting drunk, working at a restaurant,
Right.
like not having to pay rent, and like in my head, I was like, I'm gonna move to New York. The dream is to go to New York. But like then he was like, I went to Chicago. I only lived there for like a year and a half. Moved back to Buffalo. Moved in with a girl. Broke up with her. Moved in with my folks again. And was like, look, give me 1 year. This was like in 2008 or 2009. It's like, give me 1 year, and I'm going to New York next year. And that's what I did. So I've been here since 14 years. Yeah.
Man, it's wild. It's just, and I remember like you and Doug ran a great show, See You in Hell at the
Oh
Creek.
yeah.
And I
Thanks.
mean, like, yeah, so I started well, my first spot ever was at Caroline's at a new talent night thing. And in 2000, like 8 or 9. And it's that you don't know. The thing that people don't that never did comedy or don't get it, don't understand is that like we all have to figure out, it's like you have to draw your own map. No one says this is how you do stand-up comedy. Like you you take the opportunities that you're given and you do them, and then you try to figure out, how do I get more? How do I do more? And it's like I remember I saw Maj Jabrani on a date at Caroline's, and it said like new talent night or whatever. And I'm like, I went up to a server and I'm like, can I do that? And they were like, yeah, you just sign up. And then I found out that the lady Linda Smith, she called me and she's like, got to bring 15 friends and all this. And I was like, guys, I think I'm going to do
Wow,
stand up.
15.
15. And you got a 5 minute set with a CD of a tape of your thing. So it was like me and like 20 other, it was a packed, sold out.
Yeah,
And I remember who dropped in and did. Daryl Hammond dropped in and did like a set or whatever, and that was a big deal.
that's
Nick
awesome.
DiPaolo did one, but I went up and I did my five, and it was all about my ex fiance and all this, whatever, and like wheelchair parking spot joke, hacky garbage,
Oh,
side
sure.
effect shit from drugs. And but every joke got an applause, dude, because I'm the best at
Yeah.
comedy now. And I go outside and I throw my hat in the air like Mary Tyler Moore, and I'm like, this is my city. And then I realized I went and did that same 5 minutes at a open mic on St. Mark's that I'm sure you did. And I can't remember who ran, the guy who was a lawyer also
Holiday
ran it.
Cocktail Lounge?
And he used to read off cards. I forget his name. Oh God. But anyway, yeah, at Holiday. And I did that 5 minutes. I went in and like treated that open mic like it was, and everyone walked out. I remember all my like everyone I ever
Yeah.
heard of doing stand up in New York all went outside and like took, and I was like, oh, this is comedy. Like I suck at this. I
Yeah.
suck. But I only did good because my friends were, and that's when it hit me. Like on stage, I said the only reason why I did good was because I knew everybody in the audience, and I was like, oh fuck. And that's when I was like, all right, this is going to take some work. And that's when I fell in love with it. That's when I'm like, all right, cool. Like,
Yeah.
let's do this. And I remember
You,
I was in Southern Connecticut and I'm like, guys, come on, let's go to New York. And like, nobody really wanted to. So I was like, fuck this. I just went like I did what I could in we had Joker's Wild in New Haven. We had like a couple other rooms, but I would go to Providence, I'd go to Boston, anywhere I possibly could.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So I was
That's
lucky
what
to have
I was the same way. I remember like going to driving to Rochester to do an open mic, or doing some
yeah.
room in like Niagara Falls. Or I'll like I don't care. I'll just go do it, and you won't make any money. You just want to go do it. And I
Right.
remember it's funny you're I mean not I have a similar story of the Holiday Cocktail Lounge only because so when I moved to the city in 2009, in my head I'm thinking I've been doing this for years already. I already know that I'm good at this. I'm so cocky. I'm just going to go to these open mics, do my A. Everyone's going to say, "Who the fuck is that?"
Watch out, New York. Here he is. He finally
Yeah.
arrived. Yeah.
And then you realize nobody wants to hear your A at an open mic. You're an asshole for doing your A. And like not only that, but you look like a cornball and no one's gonna laugh. So I had like similar thing of not like, oh, I killed in front of my friends, but just like, what are you talking about? This gets huge. People love this. This gets nothing. You're all just staring at me. It made me feel like the way I feel like when I was a little kid and I struck out in baseball.
Yes. We got to
You
walk
get
back
that
to the
lump in your
dugout.
throat. You get the lump in your throat, and you're like, I got to figure something out. This isn't, yeah. And it humbles you. But yeah, I remember like having to fall in love with comedy again, being like, I have to start from absolute scratch in a new city like New York.
100%. And it's interesting to hear that because 2009, right around the same time, then you learn about the Sean Pattons and you learn about the,
Oh, yeah.
Normans and the Michael Che's and the bar matchless in Brooklyn and all these other rooms and the Creek and all these things. And it's like, then you go see Sean, who to this day I still think is like one of the funniest people walking the earth.
Oh,
And
yeah.
and
That
it's
and
like
rules.
to see him like just go up and like fuck around and like own the room. And it's like, what does he do? Like, I thought that I had to like own him in the first second and then just murder
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
leave him wanting more. And he's going up like, does anybody
Patience.
have any
Just
money?
patience.
Like, can I have some? Yes, that patience thing. And I swear to you, man, there was like a couple moments. I remember watching Ted Alexandro one time at Gotham talk about patience, where like I tell the story a ton, where like I watch a joke just demolish, like the whole room is applauding, and he lets it go up and down, and then it settles at a dead silence. He's like playing with the wall. It's like he's not even paying attention.
Yes, yes. He was. I remember seeing him at Haiku, was the name of the show. Dan Mahoney and Gabe Pacheco, the
Yeah.
one lounge, that brick wall. I remember noticing he was the first person to just kind of like,
Massage the wall, stretch. Yeah.
yeah,
Like
take his time and then like look around, clear his throat, take a sip. And I'm like, this man's patience is incredible.
Zen
And
Buddhist comedy in
yeah,
some
and
weird,
he's not
like,
losing people. He's not people aren't like, what's this guy doing? Because in my head, if I do that, people are like, what the fuck is this guy doing?
yeah, you didn't earn that. That's what I'm
Yeah.
always thinking is like, that whole thing of, and I remember I would, and to this day, I still tape everything on my phone and try to listen to it at least. But old sets, like, I'd get mad at myself if there was like a pause in between bits where it's like, no, you got to keep going. Like, there's a line a million. I was always aware that there was a line a million miles long behind me with comedy. I don't know why, but like I always thought like, well, if I want to do this, there must be and it's not even close to now there's 10 million people. But I mean, when we were '09 in New York, we pull up we would wait in line to pull a 2 minute Creek in the Cave open
Mike.
mic in
Yeah.
the bucket and just sit and wait. And every time someone would go, and like you're doing it to nothing,
Three
to
minutes
darkness.
and yeah, exactly. You're getting nothing out of it. You're
But I
going
would
up
be
fast.
Yeah, and I'd be so scared to pause. Like, who am I to? But then you see a Ted or Patton or, in Normand in his own way, like just going up with a list and being like, these are just jokes, just trying out new shit and watching how that like and Joe List, who I know you are like go on the road with and stuff, and Big J, like he took me under his wing early on. And it's so great to see the way that like growing up, I never had patience. I thought I had to,
No, me neither. I had no patience at all. Like just kind of like, when do I get to go? When do I get to go?
right. Yeah. It's like, don't forget me. Please don't forget me. And then when you get the opportunity, it was like, Tommy Boy with the when he's like, this is what I do with my sale, I kill it, you know.
Yeah.
And I felt like that, but comedy and watching these like the progression of things, you know, Rebecca Trent said something so incredible to me early, and it's stuck. And I don't know if you ever heard this, but it's like the amount of years you're doing comedy is almost kind of like how old you are. So it's
Okay.
like if you're a 2 year old, if you've been doing it 2 years, you kind of act like a 2 year old. If you've been doing it 5 years, you kind of act like a 5 year old. Like, and as you, it makes sense, right? Because I remember at two, it was like my terrible twos where I'm like looking at everybody else going like, how'd they get this? I want this. I deserve this. And
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
totally don't like, I'm like pissed about Conan sets. And I'm like, what the fuck? I'm still doing my first, like, but then it's like, you get to realize like, oh yeah, no, it's like, go watch a master do this. Like, and that's the stuff that like, it's
I,
just,
I still to this day tell myself all the time, like if I'm hosting someplace and I know that, after the first show, I'm like, in my head, I'm like, slow down,
yes,
slow down. It's never going to hurt to slow down. And I feel
right.
like I'm never going to slow down enough, but I have to keep telling myself because up on stage, you just want to, like you say, you have this limited amount of time and I'm jamming way too many jokes into a set list for 10, 15 minutes. I'm like, I can't get through all this. What am I doing?
I
And then I'm
know.
starting to learn now less is more. Write down less jokes in that set list and take your time with each one, and you'll fill the time and you'll
Right.
riff in between. You don't have to do all those fucking jokes in a
Right.
set. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. Now you just recorded a special. Yeah.
Yeah. In October.
So
I'm editing it now.
awesome. Yeah, I released mine in November and I wanted to talk with you about, you know, I reached out to Jay and I was like, I'm out of material. I'm like, any chance I could go out and just like eat shit for the next 6 months with you on the road? And he was like, oh my God, of course, please, you know? And I know you're out with Joe. Um, what's the writing process now for you? Like, you know, we're in a very sweet spot where we've got like the ability to kind of, you know, the middle, the feature spots, like just, mwah, you know, no
I know.
pressure.
I was just talking about that over the weekend. I was in Poughkeepsie at Laugh It Up, and we
Great
were
club.
talking about that. Like, awesome club. Feature act is without a doubt the cushiest position to be, especially if you're opening up for someone as strong as Joe List or Big J. Not only are you going to get an awesome crowd that's there because they love comedy,
Yes.
you're getting host already has gone up. Maybe there was a guest spot. Now you're just doing 20 minutes of stuff and then you just get to go back to the green room and drink your coffee. Uh,
Swing
but
for the fences the whole time.
yes, but I'm like you, like so you record the special. Also, when you record a special, how awesome is it to perform in front of a room where everybody gets you?
Yes.
They just get you. They know
Oh,
you. They get you. I walked off stage after my special, and the first thing I said it out loud. I wasn't talking to anybody. I just said, "It'll never be that good again. It'll never be that
same
good
here, dude.
again. I'm
Yeah.
not. You're never gonna get a crowd that good again." And then it's so weird with music. A band puts together a new album, they got to go on the road. They got to play that album.
I said
Comedian
that.
puts out an album. They are not allowed to talk about it. They
I
have
was
to pretend like it's in the past.
I was at physical therapy an hour before we started, and I was talking to my physical therapist about it. And I said, yeah, I'm like, she's like, I want to see your stand up. And I'm like, I had a special out. She's like, what's it like now? Like, how do you? And I'm like, it's a good question. I go, a band releases an album and plays
Yeah.
those songs for the rest of their fucking career. I
Yeah, or
go,
and for the rest of that following calendar year, you like got to
at
support the
least
album.
it's got to
Yeah,
support the album. And then like, and I remember I'm a big fan of Wilco, and I remember they released an album, and then they played the whole album in its entirety, and I was bummed. And then the next tour, luckily they didn't do it again, but like they mix it up. But I remember because
yeah,
I saw them like 3, 4 times that year, and I just saw the same thing, and I'm like, well, this is die-hard comedy fans. Like, and I told her, I go, if you watch my special and then you see me in 5 months, you're not going to be like, oh, he did that hangman joke. You're going to be like, oh, he's doing the same shit I saw already. Like,
yeah,
no
yeah.
one wants to say, nobody says, great joke, play it again. You know
It's
what I mean? But with
true.
music, it's like, but you want to know the other side of that is and this is a thing I deal with, and I'm sure, I mean, I can't speak for anybody else, but I wonder if it's for you. I also have to realize how big the world is and that nobody's heard, the whole world hasn't heard the fucking special. Like,
No, that's true. That's true.
I can be easy on myself and say, like, okay, like if I want to close hard, I could still do. one of the five jokes that I'm still doing off the
Yes,
special, and I'm
that's
not like breaking laws.
yeah. So I too, like the minute it was over, and like not the minute, but like a week after, 2 weeks after, is when I really started to like almost kind of get depressed because I was like,
Oh God, yeah.
because like I'm like, well, now when I go on the road and I open for Joe, like what am I gonna do? And it hasn't come out yet either. So I'm like, I'm still in the sweet spot, like where it's not out yet.
Yeah,
But then
enjoy this
like you said,
moment.
like yeah, not everybody's gonna see it though. But then and everyone around you keeps telling you like, dude, don't worry about it. You'll come up with stuff. And even though you have your whole career and you have your whole life, the longer you do it, the more you keep coming up with stuff. You don't think about it, but you are. You still can't grasp that. You're like, no, I'm not.
It's
That was all the
over.
jokes I had. I'm fucked. But it's so good to put yourself in that position to be backed up against the wall because it forces you to be a little more aware of what's happening. Where like you say something, some people laugh. It's social situations, and you're like, ooh, what's that?
Ooh, I got
Whereas
something
maybe
there.
before you would just be like, yeah, whatever. And now I'm the mining for jokes is a little more in tune. And
Yeah.
and I did the whole thing where I went under my bed, pulled out the bin of old notebooks. I'm scouring through those. I'm like, there's got to be
Oh,
something here. Surely there'll
so
be
much in
something
common.
here.
I have a notebook, not a notebook, a couple pages full of ideas that I came up with 5, 6 years in, 4 or 5 years in. And I remember saying to myself, I'm not a good enough comic yet to do this thought justice. So like I had ideas that like they were too grand of a thing. It's almost like a thesis more than a joke. You know what I mean? And it like needed more. And I'm like, I don't think I'm ready to do that yet. So I've been finding a couple of those that are more
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
theories than jokes and try to like make those funny now. But the thing that I love about the opportunity, see, you're with you have Joe, you go on a thing that I admire so much about List, Louie, a lot of these guys that do like a new hour a year.
It's
Joe put
impressive.
out a special that's like this year's jokes was what it was called. That's
Yeah.
no pressure. I mean, it's not no pressure, but it's like it's not a theme. It's not a big one man show thing. Like he's just like these are this year's jokes,
Yeah,
and
he is a working comic.
he's earned diehard comedy nerd fans that are the best fan. That's me with music. I want to
Yeah.
see like the new songs and the old songs. You know what I mean? But like I love that he does that because he's just, hey, here's this year's stuff. And
Yeah,
he
me too,
knows
man.
like I
And
love that about him. And Louis to always has been someone who I thought like I just loved his jokes. I mean, it doesn't matter like his some specials I like better than others, but like whether it's chewed up or whether it's live at the Dolby, like just his
hilarious. Yeah.
it's hilarious stuff. Yeah, I think
Even his album Live in Houston 2005.
so good.
So
So
funny.
good. My God.
So funny.
Shameless. That half hour is easily, I think, the most one of the
Yeah.
greatest half hours of all time. But he's someone who I saw and it's like, oh, he's just talking about who he is now.
Yeah, it obviously takes years too to like learn who you are up there and learn what it is what you want to do. And one thing opening for Joe too that I've learned so much from him. Uh, you know, I'm a terrible businessman and I'm terrible at the what even this is. So I was doing comedy for so long, but to what end? I wasn't working towards anything, you
Right,
know?
right. Yeah,
And
yeah.
and people around were really like, you gotta do a special, you gotta do. But Joe is really the ones like, dude, do it. You gotta do a special. Like, if you're not working towards recording something or putting it all together,
What
then
is it?
why are you? What are you doing? So like, it made me realize, like, yeah, you lay this down and then you build that next hour. That's the way it's done.
Yeah.
And maybe it was like my own personal psychological hangups where I was just like, I'm not one of those guys, but like no, I could be one of those guys, but you got to put in the work and you put your head down and you have to try stuff, you know?
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely not one of those guys, and I'm like you, where it's like, I think maybe my getting in my own way kind of thing is I feel like I'm never doing enough. So it's like I have the special, it's doing well, but I have to now. It's like hibachi. It's like I cook the steak. Now I got to dice it up into tiny little pieces and
and
season
throw it
it
in
for
people's mouths.
throw it in people's mouths, make a fucking, onion volcano to get people's attention. But I have to put it out on TikTok, put it out on Instagram, time it properly, tag it properly, fucking, space it out enough to make sure that it's like, and get the followers and do all that. And I hate, dude, I hate all of it. I
I hate it.
genuinely don't like anything other than the feeling of like the lights going down and my name getting
Sure.
called and I go up on stage. And I've had the honor of like, oh, like the Impractical Jokers bring me out and I do these theaters and arenas and all this stuff. And it's amazing. But it's that postpartum depression afterwards where it's like they're coming to see them, not me, So like, I,
You were good too.
you were good. Hey, you were all right. One day, kid, keep it up. And
I love that.
yeah, if we got anything that you could see, oh, hosting when someone goes, you should do comedy too. Oh,
Oh,
it's the fucking
God.
worst. But
I know.
I'm with you with the thing of like, so it's interesting that like, and I have that new material show, so please, anytime, come do it at New York Comedy Club. But like,
Listen, that's so funny you mentioned that. Last year, do you remember me and Twos came to do
you
it?
did my show, yeah,
Me
yeah.
and Jim Twos came, and that was a situation where I woke up that morning. I did not have a spot booked at night. Twos hits me up. I'm doing Mike's new material show. And I was like, all right, I'll do it. And then it forced me to think of something to do. And I did a joke that night that ended up on the special it was just a story from my childhood that like I never even considered doing, but because I was doing a new material night, it like
Oh, that's
forced me to like think about it and do it. And I
good.
still think about that, man. So
Oh,
that's
good.
awesome.
That makes me happy. We got to do more of those, dude, because it's like, I mean, think about if we were to like, so if we go back a minute in the conversation and think about those open mics where we saw everybody and we do it now, like in a more professional setting where we can have our own new material shows and be diligent at it and help each other out, like that's what's going to
Uh,
keep us like young and fresh and fun, whatever, in this because we're kind of all doing it alone together. You know what I
yeah.
mean? So it's
And I
fun to
don't
do.
think we realize, I don't think we realize how seasoned we are.
I know.
You
We're
don't
like,
realize how many miles you have on you and how good you are at this because you're just doing it and you just go out every night until you see some people who've done it they're only been doing it a year or two. You're like,
I'm
oh,
good
okay.
at this. I know what I'm doing.
I can consider myself good at this. It's
Yeah.
okay to consider yourself good at this. You're not,
Yes.
it's not bad, it's not a sin.
It's good to be good and to know it. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Well, man, I don't want to keep you too long, but this is a
I
blast
can talk
chatting
about
with
this.
you.
I can talk about this kind of stuff all day long.
Well,
We
let's
didn't
do
talk about the Bills game really, but
Well, let's do another one soon, man. Tell everybody that's listening and watching where they could find you and all your stuff and
okay.
we'll do another one soon.
I am on Instagram. My handle is at no Wayne in hell. I barely on Twitter or X or whatever it's called. Now, don't really do that. I'm not on TikTok. I'm telling you, I'm a bad businessman, but I'm on Instagram a lot. My special will be coming out hopefully February or March, and I'm going to be putting it out on Joe List's YouTube page. So that,
Smart. Yeah.
such a good man for offering that up for me. I mean, Joe's done so much for me, and I can't thank that guy enough.
Yeah, he's one of the best.
But yeah, man, no ain't in hell for all the special stuff coming out, and yeah, man, that's really all I got.
You're awesome. Thank you so much
You're
for
awesome,
hanging.
man.
We got to do more fun things together. And you know what?
Absolutely.
We're putting this out there right now. Finn's Nation and Bill's Mafia. Look at what we're doing right now. Okay. We're
Yeah,
bridging the gap. We're
coming together.
friends. We're
Yeah.
becoming one hybrid Dolphin Bill animal, some mythical second place monster. So
Land and sea. Yeah.
stuck in a tree somewhere, not able
Yeah. Flopping around.
to Awesome. Thank you, everyone. See you next time.
Thanks, Mike.
You're the best, bro.